Greetings! On today's program we're going to discuss individuality and plurality. Now, when I say individuality, I mean not the individual person, like sentience. I mean the individual object, that is, an object perceived as being one object. Now, what is it that makes an object an individual? Well, let's think about this. When you see an apple on the table, it is an individual apple. You define it as that when you conceive of it. What is it that makes that apple one apple? And something is an individual when we define it as an individual. Some people have said that it's an individual when it isn't a part of something else. But when you see an apple on a tree, or an apple on the counter, it's still the same apple, but when it's on the tree, it's a part of a tree. So what is it that makes that an individual part, then? Individuality is applied to objects. It doesn't really exist according to that object. The object is no different than it would be normally. It's nothing more than you applying your concept of individuality to objects themselves that make them individuals. But then the question stands, if there's no such thing as individual objects, then how does the self stand? How does the person stand as an individual person? Well, an individual sentient being or moral agent, whatever you want to call it, is completely different from an individual object, and that's a different matter entirely. As for individual objects, let's use a Hegelian dialectic to discuss this. If you don't know what a dialectic is, you have the thesis, you have the antithesis, and you have the synthesis. Now, with the thesis, we are going to postulate individuality does not exist, and our ideas of singularity are purposeless, because we're tying singularity as a concept with individuality. I'll explain that later. Well, some people might not agree with that, some people might. So let's use the opposite view. Individuality does exist, and singularity has a purpose. Well, a synthesis in dialectic is actually the combination of two premises. So a synthesis would be individuality does not exist, but singularity has a purpose. And let's go ahead and examine that.